in the biggest sports market in the world. This hockey game that's being played here tonight is being billed as a very big hockey game. Just so you don't think I'm alone in this stuff. Good morning to you. Good Friday morning from New York. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports, and this is Daily Shot of Penguins. It comes your way bright and early every weekday. If you're into football and or baseball, I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Pirates in the same place that you found this. Penguins versus Rangers tonight here at the Garden. It's a 7:08 p.m. face-off. The Rangers, after a really bizarre lull that had everybody up here freaking out and panicking, and in a couple of cases, Chris Drury pushing the button to further that panic. They're now 6-3-1 in their last 10. They've got guys like Chris Kreider playing like a 50-goal guy again. And they've got people here at least a little bit excited about where they are. Now, the catch to that is where they are is the same place where the Penguins are, which is stuck in that quirky 10-team pack in the East that's separated by a grand total of 9 points. I'm going to repeat that. 10 teams separated by 9 points. The Penguins specifically have 27 games left. That's a lot of the schedule. We haven't hit what anyone anywhere could realistically describe as some stretch run. It's just not that. It's early February. A third of the season is left. And a lot of that, like the game tonight, like the one I'll be covering tomorrow as well in Philadelphia, are inside the division. So the points are there, the possibilities are there, and at least ever since Salt Lake City, the push very much has been there. So, okay, now that I've said all that, I'm going to say something else. If you go back to what Brian Rust told me in Utah about this stretch, meaning the win in Salt Lake City, and then the 4 games that would follow leading into the Four Nations face-off, he was the one who said, and I don't mean to pin this on him as if it's some sort of negative or whatever, he's supposed to be part of that push. The Penguins would need 7 or 8 points out of these 4 games to, remain viable, remain more than just a figment. And part of the reason for that, Russ didn't say this, I am, is that Kyle Dubas can still make more moves between now and the March 7 NHL trade deadline. Now, there's been talk for a while that general managers would like to have a lot of their business done before the tournament, which is why you saw a lot of them, Dubas included, making significant moves in the past few days. But there will be almost 2 weeks of action after the tournament, even if Gary Bettman and everybody kind of puts a kibosh on making moves during the break because they don't want to take away eyeballs from the action in Montreal and Boston. There's still ample time. And there's still, look, it takes one text, one phone call for someone to say, listen, Kyle, we love Rickard Rakell. We're ready to give you whatever it is that you want. And you know how you were just able to get a first-round pick for Marcus Pettersson and Drew O'Connor, even though there were other components in the deal? And you know how the Sharks were just able to get a first-rounder somehow from the Stars for Mikhail Granlund and Cody Ceci? Well, wait till you see what we're going to offer for Rakell. And then everything changes. And all the stuff that we talk about now goes right out the window. One text, one phone call. That's all it takes. And the only thing one would think that could cause Dubas to pause, whether or not you'd want him to in this scenario, and I've heard all of your viewpoints on this, which run, by the way, all over the place, meaning to both extremes, is if Dubas was faced with a team legitimately competing for a playoff spot right in front of him. Doesn't mean he wouldn't ever trade Rakell. It might mean that he wouldn't do it before the deadline. Rakell's still signed for quite a while. That can still happen in the summer. But here it is. It's sitting right there on the stage here tonight at the self-proclaimed world's most famous arena. And whether or not Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin or both are in or out of the lineup, that won't matter. Not to this. They have to win this game. I believe they have to win this one and the one tomorrow night in Philadelphia. If they do that, and they get their 7 out of 8 points, then they make a case, a compelling case, might not be one that you or I agree with, but a case that confronts anything that Dubas might want to do to the contrary in the short term. I am really looking forward to this tonight. I'm really looking forward to finding out whatever it is that there is to be found out about this group. Heck, I'm not even sure that Philadelphia matters if this one doesn't play out. When we come back, J1Q. This episode is brought to you by Bet Online, your number one source for all your summer sports needs this season, from Major League Baseball, golf, NHL, NBA playoffs. Get the latest odds and lines, including all team matchups, player props, odds on just about everything that's out there. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet Online, where the game starts. Today's J1Q comes from Eli, who says, DK, you finished off a show earlier this week mentioning NHL teams that have cap anchors and a surplus of draft picks. Is that not these Penguins? They're going to have $2.8 million falling off from Jeff Petrie and Riley Smith. Kyle Dubas could use his plethora of draft picks to get rid of Ryan Graves or Tristan Jarry. If he does, that's $7+ million freed up, $11+ if he can jettison both. That $7 alone could buy another Rickard Rakell level player, plus the $9 million increase for all teams in cap space. Look, I can't express how upset I'd be if the Penguins chose to kick the can down the road again, or even for 2 more years. This is the Penguins and not the Pirates, right? Eli, your case that you're making relies on so many hypotheticals, a couple of which that I can just say right off the top of my head that I don't see occurring at all. I don't see anybody taking Jarry's contract, especially now. And I don't, for that matter, see anybody taking Graves' contract, although it's not nearly as egregious, and Graves still can, hopefully, theoretically, become something in Pittsburgh. But this idea, the general idea that you have about the Penguins being able to turn it around in enough time to get Sidney Crosby back to the playoffs, whether it's this year or next year, that comes with some merit, but man, it's a tough sell to a lot of people, and it's a tough sell for a reason. There's even, at least the sense that I get, a lot of people, maybe most people who follow the team closely, would rather not see them make the playoffs this year at all. I don't share that for reasons that I've laid out a lot of times now. But I will say this. If you're making moves toward that end, toward a quick recovery, as opposed to a real one and a healthy one, then you're not making any sense. One thing you'll notice is that for as much as I will put forth that it would be outstanding for the Penguins, these Penguins, to make the playoffs, you won't once hear me say, boy, it sure would help if Dubas would go get somebody to assist in that process. I don't even think it, let alone say it. But if other things were to happen, and most of those would be internal, I'm regularly pointing now to Ville Koivunen, but it could also be Vasily Ponomarev. It could be other guys. If they were to come along, if they were to accelerate their development, their maturity, their ability to contribute in the NHL without there being some big, long waiting period, then that can be the signal to say, all right, let's use this extra cap space that you're describing for the purpose of adding a really, really good player next year, as opposed to doing even more of the Kevin Hayes type trades where you take on cap, but somebody gives you a really good high draft pick. I'll tell you this much. I'll feel a whole lot more confident in any answers that I offer to anybody after tonight's game. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Penguins, and we will be back with a new show on Monday.